Hello and welcome back to Mind in Crime. So we are continuing with Christina Applegate. We're on chapter 11, and that chapter is called Bing Bang Boom. So, before I made Anchorman, I hadn't done much improv comedy. Just adjusting my light because it's right in my eye. So before I made Anchorman, I hadn't done much improv comedy. I always thought comedy was better when it was scripted, choreographed seriously. My agent sent me the script and I rolled my eyes. Too campy, too ridiculous. I wanted to be taken seriously. As I said, I was a bit of an asshole. I knew Will Ferrell was on SNL at the time, but other than that, I had no real idea who anyone was, including the director, Adam McKay. I went to the auditorium begrudgingly because my agent said it was a good idea. All I wanted was to have fun in auditions. It's not life and death. Nothing is life and death in show business. Maybe my less than serious approach to that audition helped. But when I did well, I did well because I did well. I might be able to learn to read at some point. Because I did well and I was asked back for a screen test. So I just need to sort my dogs out. So there I was, sitting in a room with 3 other girls who had also been called back, each of us getting our hair done and prepping to go in. And then it was my turn. At one point, we were running the scene in which Veronica and Ron are firing insults back and forth from behind the news desk while the credits roll. I like sparring with Will. I had a great time with it. Then just as quickly, we were done. Bing, bang, boom. Okay, Adam said when we finished. Now, do a take for fun. My mind went blank. A voice in my head was saying, but it's fun saying your words. I like saying your words. By then, I was all too aware that I was in the presence of improv masters, Will Ferrell, who does it perfectly, seemingly without thinking, not to mention Adam, who basically invented a whole type of improv, being one of those geniuses who created Chicago's Upright Citizens Brigade, where Amy Poehler, Horatio Sands and many other great comics plied their early trade. But I had never done improv comedy. I'd grown up on a set where you say the words correctly or you fail. You can't change even the smallest of things. We had to nail the script every single time. Just say whatever you want, McKay said, looking at me, waiting. Well, I started, with Will next to me, last night when we were together. I thought it was just your finger, but actually it was your dick. That line came out of somewhere, I guess, my unconscious mind. I'd slept with a guy once, and when I'd said, you can put it in, he said, I am in. That's how small the dick was. Art imitates life, I suppose. Will and Adam lost their shit. Will broke and able to stay in character. They wanted me for the job. That wasn't the end of it, though. When it came to agreeing on a fee, the studio lowballed me. I'm talking a stupidly lame amount of money. I said no. That's not going to happen, I said, and hung up the phone. They could go fuck themselves. At the time, I was renting a beach house in Malibu on Broad Beach, trying to get away from it all for a bit. My marriage wasn't going as planned. Apparently, a dry wedding with hummus was not the perfect send-off for a lifetime of happiness. I needed a win. I got another call. This time it was Will and Adam. We want you. We want you so badly that we are going to take some of our salaries to pay you. For those two guys to make that offer meant so much to me. Women are almost never paid as much as the men they star along, but here were two titans of comedy offering me some of their share. I gratefully accepted. I was touched, but I still thought this bizarre and over-the-top movie wasn't entirely my jam. Then I arrived to set and found Steve Carell, Paul Rudd, and David Koresh. Sorry, I don't know how you pronounce this. Kochner, David Kochner, Fred Willard, and Will and Adam. I was working with the best actors I've ever worked with in my entire career, except for James Marsden, but we'll get to that. It was a total dream stuff. I was in heaven. Adam was no different on set than he was in audition. He would often say, "Okay, now just do one take for fun." I still found myself thinking, but it's fun saying your words. I like saying your words. I tried to watch the others to see what I could glean from how they did improv. Steve had taught improv, for God's sakes, and at the legendary Second City. Then there was Fred. I thought Fred Willard was the funniest man on the entire planet. There's a scene in which Fred, playing Ed Harkin, is in his office talking to someone on the phone. We, the audience, don't know who, and Chris Parnell and I come swerving in with a pressing thing to tell him. Fred's hold me off with a hand gesture, and I stand at his desk and watch as he talks on the phone. I have no idea where he would have gotten hold of German pornography, but you and I are mature adults. We've both seen our share of pornographic materials. Oh, you never have? Of course you haven't. How stupid of me. Neither have I. I was just speaking in generalities. Right, I'll stop by the school later, Sister Margaret. That was not in the script, and it was not exactly my type of humour. Chris and I had to stand there and try not to crack. I barely made it through. There I was with these masters of improv, Will, Steve, Adam, Paul, David, and Fred. That's just how their brains worked. Everything came from the central tenet of improvisational comedy, which states that whatever is said is accepted and built upon, the shorthand for which is yes and. For me, all this was new. On set, I'd find myself saying to anyone who'd listen, "Teach me, Obi-Wan." But Steve Carell, especially, would just insist that I didn't need to be taught, that I could do it all myself, which was such a beautiful act of belief in me. No one sat me down and held my hand and looked lovingly into my eyes and told me their wisdom. They just said, "Fuck you, you know how to do this." So I studied what they did and tried to soak in their brilliance. Until after days and days on set, my brain suddenly opened a portal and stuff just flew out. I had no idea where these thoughts were coming from. I was wholly unacquainted with the words that were coming out of my mouth. Truly, a part of my mind had unsealed and had grown anew an entirely surprising ability to improvise. Sometimes when you're hired for a comedy movie and the man's the star, he's supposed to be the funny one, and you're not supposed to take that away from him. That's not the case with Anchorman. I was able to go toe to toe with them. It was a masterclass I've taken with me on all my subsequent professional journeys. Years later, I'd shoot Vacation with Ed Helms. I think it's one of the funniest movies I've ever done, but I felt my part was written light. The directors listened to me and punched up the character of Debbie Griswold, Ed's character wife, and I felt like an equal partner to Ed because I got to do my thing. Too often on set you have to fight for your place with men because they don't like it when you're too funny. Another time I auditioned for a movie and I know that I didn't land the part because I was funnier than the lead actor. At the audition, I was getting bigger laughs than he was, and the directors were cracking up at me, not at him. He was not laughing. Then there's the flagrant mansplaining of it all. I auditioned for the role of Genevieve in a Ron Howard movie, The Dilemma. The movie was to star Vince Vaughn, who I'd already worked with on Anchorman. At the audition, Ron suggested, why don't you guys just improv for a couple seconds right before you get into it? Given our previous experience together, I was surprised when Vince looked me straight in the face and said, do you understand what that means? It means we're going to make up lines before we get into the scene. Come on, bro. Are you kidding me right now? I thought. Needless to say, I didn't get the gig. Winona Ryder did, and I'm betting she improv'd the shit out of that scene. Improv can be scary, but bears are worse. On Anchorman, during the bear pit scene, one of the animals we were working with was busy being a bear. One of the animals we were working with was busy being a bear, and I thought it moved in my direction. I shrieked. A totally reasonable response to being near a very large animal, however innocent it was. Someone, thank you, my saviour, picked me up off my feet and swept me right out of there pronto. I was understandably rattled, my body shaking. May I remind you, those animals are not small. As an apology for my near-death experience, it wasn't near-death, but I'm a drama queen from Laurel Canyon. The producers bought me a then state-of-the-art flip phone with a video camera. Before they presented it to me, the entire cast and crew recorded funny videos for me. Adam McKay proudly handed it to me. This is what I get for almost dying for your movie, I joked. Still, it meant a lot because they all meant a lot. I missed them after we wrapped, not the bear. We created something really special. Over the years, our careers have grown and morphed into different ways. Cheers to Steve Carroll, being famous as fuck, go brick, but we always stayed in touch. After the first Anchorman, Paul Rudd even stayed in my home. Rudd, his wife Julie, and their son moved into my house on the hill in Laurel Canyon because he was filming The 40-Year-Old Virgin with Carol. And I moved to a beautiful brownstone in Manhattan while on Broadway for Sweet Charity. That's how it's always been with the Anchorman cast. We'll always be one big, crazy, happy family. Always. For what it's worth, I could argue that Wake Up Ron Burgundy, the uncensored cutting room floor version of Anchorman, is even better than the original movie. It was essentially the first movie we made. That film including the amazing alarm clock band robbery scene in which I got to see Amy Poehler in action for the first time. She just started on SNL, and I remember asking Adam who this hysterical woman was. She and Maya Rudolph did a hilarious riff about the werewolf mask Maya was wearing while robbing the bank. I am a man, ma'am. How many werewolves do you see around here wearing a skirt? None. It was clear Amy was going to be a star, but test audiences had wanted more of the news team and the love between Veronica and Ron, so an entire month of shooting was shelved to make up what became Anchorman. Alas, the powers that be didn't realise Wake Up, Ron Burgundy theatrically. It's part of the bonus DVD, etc. Because if they'd done so, they would have had to pay us for it. It's often forgotten that Anchorman wasn't a commercial success right out of the gate. When it hit screens on July the 9th, 2004, it was deemed a total flop. The initial weeks were tough. The first weekend numbers were disappointing enough that a friend of mine who ran part of DreamWorks, the studio that released the movie, called me on the first Monday crying, "We flopped," he said. By its third week, it had dropped to the 6th spot. 2 years later, though, I got an enormous cheque from the DVD and VHS sales. Will and I always laughed that it became the gift that kept on giving. As it grew, and as a generation of kids and people started to find it, it became what it is now, a smash hit, a cult classic, grossing nearly 100 million worldwide. We created something amazing, and then we did another one, and another. Bing, bang, boom. Chapter 12. Metatarsal. #5, so I'm assuming that means number 5. In 2004, I flew to New York and auditioned for 12 hours for the role of Charity Hope Valentine in a Broadway revival of the Cy Coleman, Dorothy Fields and Neil Simon musical Sweet Charity. This was the show that was originally directed and choreographed by none other than my hero, Bob Fosse, and when it premiered on Broadway in 1969, it had starred his then wife, the legendary Gwen Verdon. Now there was a chance I could be Charity too. It had been an incredible few years in my career, but this was about to be a pinnacle. I was riding the Anchorman high when the chance to be in the musical came my way. It doesn't matter who you are, though. You don't just jump into that role. Charity Hope Valentine, the girl who wanted to be loved, is a character who barely ever leaves the stage. If you're not dancing as Charity, you're dancing and singing. And if you're not dancing and singing, you're acting and crying and trying to make people laugh all at the same time. It's one of the hardest roles in all of Broadway, and certainly the hardest I have ever done. I wanted it. Dance had been my number one love all my life, and this was my chance to do what I've been working towards since childhood. I started in the prestigious Julie O'Connell dancers at age 10 and danced with them for the next 5 or 6 years. We did tap, ballet, jazz, everything. If ever I was depressed, my mum would say, "When was the last time you went to class? It's been a week. That's why you need to go." It was the 1980s, so we wore neon unitards, leg warmers up to our thighs, headbands, and wide belts. We danced to 80s pop, some of which was pretty terrible. Here's looking at you, Neutron Dance. Then one day I was walking through the Debbie Reynolds studios in North Hollywood, where we rehearsed when I heard a very different kind of music coming from one of the other studios, Studio F. I think it was a Melissa Etheridge song. But whatever it was a siren call to me. I peeked in to watch and my whole body froze. What is this? I thought. Leading the class was a dancer named Doug Caldwell. Doug's work mixed ballet and modern, though I'm loath to use the word modern because that is its own thing. Doug's style was something entirely new, fluid and beautiful, with every fingertip, every part of the body, emotionally in tune. Here was a man doing something that was filled with passion, love, and spirituality. Doug had been a ballet dancer, but he didn't have the best turnout, so he switched to choreography and teaching. It was the same story as Bob Fosse, who also had horrible turnout. He'd pivoted to create his mind-bending dance filled with uncanny turning and angular poses, an art form all of its own. Doug Caldwell had invented an entirely new and beautiful form of expression, too. A place where balletic and modern met, but not flexed foot modern. He drew gorgeous lines which led to what was known as the reach. Lyrical as Doug's creation would come to be known, would eventually lead to contemporary, which is now the big thing. Back in the mid-80s, lyrical was just getting started as a dance form all of its own. I could feel the soul through every movement the dancers made. The arms reaching for something, a yearning in the body that amplified the inner yearnings we dancers so often carried. I was hooked instantly. I found Julie O'Connell the next day, determined to chase this new art form. I have to do this other thing now, I said. She understood and gave me her blessing. I was 15 years old. Going to class with Doug was church for me, for all of us. Eventually we'd actually call it church. Doug's dancers stuck with him for years. We would see the young ones come in and stay, and then more young ones and more. But there was a core group of us that had always been there, each with our own spot for his warm-ups. If anyone even put their towel down near my spot, or any of our spots, we'd pick it up and move it. This is my spot, I'd think. I was always to the left of the mirror, first row. That was my spot for 30 years of dance with Doug Caldwell, from 16 to my mid-40s. I had started dancing when I was 3 and have been in dance classes ever since, often for 25 hours a week in the summers when I wasn't acting. I loved it. It was life. I would eat a huge bowl of pasta, parmesan to get the pasta. I would eat a huge bowl of pasta parmesan to get the carbs. Sometimes I'd go to work at Married with Children, leave and head straight to the dance class until 11 o'clock at night. It saved me. Some days I'd take as many as 5 classes. Doug's class, Alec Mango's class, and 3 others. I relished Alex's technical and challenging warm-ups. He was a Brazilian dance teacher and his class was all sensuality. When I was older, I'd act as his assistant, modelling the warm-up for everyone. But Doug was where my heart lay. And he loved me. Once there was one perfect technician in our class. Every T was crossed and I dotted. I'll always remember what Doug said about me, though while referencing this dancing technician. Christina is not the best technician, but she's the only person I want to watch in class. I still hold those words close. I wasn't a technician and was never fully a ballerina either. But I knew how to move, and I like to think that my lines were beautiful and my reach expressive. I went to Doug's class at Studio F when I was feeling sad and wanted to be happier, or sad and wanted to be sadder, or happy and wanted to be happier. There I was able to release the pain I was feeling in life. I was there for myself and for my heart, for my soul, for my spirit. I did that for 30 years with this man and with Alex. Every movement Doug made expressed his soul, and that's what I wanted to replicate in my own dancing. He listened to every tick, every boom, every sound, every breath of the music, and danced accordingly. There was so much crying in that class, and it was never performative, not once. It was real and true. Some nights, after years of building a friendship, we'd go to his house after class to drink red wine and watch So You Think You Can Dance. Once the show was over, we would dance for hours again, even though we'd already had a 3-hour class. Doug's dance room was part of his carpeted living room, and we would freestyle and do floor work. I would sometimes look down to find that the entire top of my foot was bleeding from the carpet, but I didn't care. I still have scars on my feet from those nights. I love being around that bunch of dancers, around Doug. I love dancers. I love their whole world. It's my world. Or was. I was a damn good dancer. Damn good. I wasn't a technician, but yes, I think I could dance. As for Doug, well, he knew chronic pain too. When you dance all day, every day, and teach conventions all over the world, you're going to hurt everywhere. As he got older, his pain only grew. One day I got a voicemail from him. "Hello," he said. "I'm doing so good. Can't wait to see you. I miss you and can't wait to see Sadie." Sadie too had loved his classes. I remember picking her up from her first lyrical class, and she said, "Mom, I know what you've been talking about. And I know what Doug has been talking about. I almost cried while I was dancing." I texted Doug immediately. "Shit, well done." I listened to his voicemail and made a mental note to call him. But before I got the chance, a friend texted me, "Have you talked to Doug?" After I texted no, he texted back, "He's dead." I lost it. I didn't stop crying for a week. I still have his last voicemail, the call I never got to return. I keep saving it so I don't lose it. But I will never return it, never tell him once again how much that reach expresses something fundamental about me something deep in my soul that can only be touched by dance. Dance was everything to me, and the chance to dance on Broadway, I could not let this pass me by. Every single detail of what happened next is burned into my mind because it was the most devastating thing I've ever been through. And yes, I can say that even knowing everything else I've been through. It is Chicago, March the 5th, 2005. I have auditioned and been offered the role of a lifetime. And now I am in the Windy City, preparing for previews before heading to Broadway. It is the first night of previews. My mom has flown in, my sister and my best friend too. My family who live in the Midwest are all there. Before the show, I am standing on stage behind the curtain with everyone in the cast. Usually we do funny things to get us loose and then circle up. This night though, I simply said, "Guys, tonight is really important to me. My whole family is here." They understand. Then I'm standing stage right in the wings while the cast does Big Spender. One of the few numbers Charity Hope Valentine is not in. My job is to run out near the end and twirl around a lamppost in the centre of the stage. At some point, the scene, I have to fall into a lake, which is just a big hole in the stage, where the stage manager squirts me with water. I am wearing difficult, clunky shoes, not my dance shoes, because regular dance shoes would get ruined. I come back up and then go back down again. More water, back up. The secrets of live theatre, folks. I come out onto stage to do my part. The music starts. I run to the lamppost, take a step, and my heel goes off to the side and snap. That is a bone. Oh my God. I'm alone on the stage. And my first line? You ever have one of those days? I look down and my foot is coming out of the shoe sideways. My friend, Tyler Haynes, who plays Charlie, comes out and I'm dancing around him while internally flipping out. I know something is seriously wrong. Tyler pushes me into the lake where I find Beverly Jenkins, who is, by the way, one of the few stage managers to ever get an honorary Tony Award, waiting there with the water bottle, ready to drench me. "Beverly, I broke my foot," I whisper. She looks aghast, squirts me nonetheless, and up I go back on stage. Stage business ensues. Then I go back down. "Go call an ambulance," I say. "What?" Beverly says. During the next scene, I do a complete song and dance number on what I would later discover to be a broken fifth metatarsal. The pain is twisting up my leg as I try not to puke. Finally, I get to the part where Charity leaves the stage for a minute. I run off and promptly faint. In the dressing room, the EMTs want to get me out of my costume, so Dilys Croman, my swing, can use it. I tell them that they can take my wig and my shoes, but not my dress, so I'd be naked, and then they'd blue light me away. That night, Dilys Croman did an incredible job stepping in for me. The producers wanted me off the show after that. I was devastated, but not surprised. The standard healing time for a break like this is 12 weeks. I wasn't giving up without a fight. I'm going to do it in 6, I said. I had to stay out of the previews for those 6 weeks. My understudy, the brilliant Charlotte Charlotte Damboys, initially covered for me while we finished our out-of-town run. I did everything I could to get better faster. I would swim with my bad foot up above the water. Next time you're in a pool, try to swim breaststroke with one leg held out of water. I needed to keep my lungs going, my body fit, because it's such a challenging role. I was determined to do whatever it took, even if I had to learn to swim with one leg sticking up out of the pool. While the previews were in Boston, I was headed to Harvard every day to use their special machines, probes and tech. I'd meditate constantly too, setting my intention that this bone would heal in 6 weeks, not 12. Against Dr. Michael Beckwith, who has now been in my life for 30-something years, said, I need you to visualise a doctor saying, I've never seen a bone heal this fast before. I pictured it over and over again. The whole time. I could feel the producers trying to push me out. They took my face off the playbill. Shit, they wouldn't even let me come to an opening night party. The accident happened in March. Pretty soon it was Good Friday. My doctor called me. I've never seen a bone heal this fast before, he said. The next call I got was about ticket sales in New York plummeting because people had heard that I might not be in the show. I was told Sweet Charity was shutting down. I had just healed a bone faster than a human person should be able to heal a bone, but all the investors saw was their lost investment. Give me 2 hours, I said. I started calling everyone, from the director of Jaws on down. I need a break, I remember telling Steven Spielberg, in the form of $500,000. Unsurprisingly, I got nowhere with anyone. Then my choreographer, Wayne Cilento, a gentle, beautiful human being, called me. They already put the sign up backstage, Christina, telling the cast that the show's over on Sunday. Don't let them get other jobs, I said. Don't. And then I put up $5,000 myself. My agent said to me, either you're the stupidest person I've ever met or you're a fucking genius. Turns out it was a bit of both. Stupid. It was $500,000. Genius. The other investors realised I was serious, and by Sunday, the deeply appropriate day of the resurrection of the Lord, I got a call that confirmed we had the money to continue. The same night, the cast threw a closing party. Dennis O'Hare, who played Oscar, secretly filmed me sitting there with everyone as they cried, all thinking it was over. Don't get another job, please, I said to everyone. I know we were going to be safe, but I couldn't tell them yet. Christina, someone said, it's over. The next day, Easter Monday, we announced that the show was back up. My foot was at 45%. Now, the question was, could I even do this? I was still crying in the morning because I woke up in so much pain. The investors told me they'd have Charlotte Damboys do the show if I couldn't prove to them that I could pull it off. We need you to do the whole show by yourself in a studio. I fucking did it. I put on my unitard and my chopped off sweatpants and my Foss boot with the brace inside, little wires of metal to keep the foot from moving too much, and I did it. The entire show with someone reading the other lines. I did it all my dance numbers, all my songs, in front of Wayne Salento, the choreographer. I'll never forget the look on his face when I finished. As he called the producers, he was crying. "She fucking did it," Wayne said, through tears. I sat out the show during the rest of the previews because I kept hitting my foot with my cane during If My Friends Could See Me Now. I knew that for me, to be there on opening night, I needed to skip one particularly balletic scene filled with leaps. By that time, everyone in New York, even the sad little New York Times critic who panned me, knew about my broken foot. It was the talk of the town. When I walked into restaurants, people didn't look at my boobies anymore. They looked at my foot. This was the first. Even though Ben Brantley at the New York Times didn't like what I did, his comment, "While she executes her steps with care and precision, dance is not a transcendent form of self-expression for Miss Applegate," was horribly brutal about a person basically dancing on one foot. Enough folks did. Even the notoriously picky Michael Rydell from the New York Post wrote that I was dedicated and determined, and that she tamed, brackets meaning me, with her charm. She tamed with her charm, warmth, vulnerability, and expert comic timing. All this while icing the broken foot during the intermission. I pushed so hard and fought so hard, not because I needed to play charity and win a prize. Instead, I had tapped into a self-protectiveness that had been slowly building inside me. I had to protect 26 people I loved, 26 people I'd just spent months rehearsing with, who were going to lose their jobs if I didn't dance. I still had a 55% broken foot when we opened on Broadway. I danced with the fear of God that I could break my foot again. My foot never quite healed correctly because I danced on it for the entire run. Back then, I displayed a grit that I sometimes worry I don't have anymore. But I've always been a survivor that way. Playing charity, insisting I would do so with a broken foot, and taking a significant financial risk was love made manifest. It wasn't about ego or Tonys or a better review in the Times. It was about keeping that cast together, keeping them in work and fulfilled, letting their genius shine on stage after all that effort. I couldn't just let it die. I'd dance on one leg again for that kind of love. On the morning of May the 10th, 2005, I was lying in my bed in my townhouse on the 11th Street in Manhattan. I was living there while performing in Sweet Charity. And as I was luxuriating in a rare late morning start, I got a beep on my pager. It was a message from my publicist. She had some news. I let her words sink in. I was alone, and I didn't call anyone. I wanted to really feel it, but I couldn't. I just couldn't be excited for myself. Part of me knew that this was the culmination of a life stream, my Broadway dream. Another part of me heard that girl from all those years ago saying, "You're doing it." I put the leash on my dog, Tallulah, and walked north to the 14th Street subway station. There I headed east on the L train and changed to the 6th train and then up to Candle, a vegan place on the east side that I love. I got my favourite sandwich, the Cajun Seaton, and tucked it into my backpack, along with my purple hippy-dippy blanket and a book to read. Then the two of us headed farther north on the 6th to Hunter College, where I walked west into Central Park to Sheep Meadow. There I sat on my blanket with my sandwich, Tallulah staring at me, begging for a bite. As I was trying to not eat the entire sandwich, it had been known to revisit me while I was dancing, my phone rang. It was Michael Rodell from the New York Post. He would eventually write that nice notice about me, but he hadn't always been so kind. At the behest of my publicist, I took the call. "Congratulations," he said. "How are you celebrating?" "Well, Michael," I said, "I'm sitting in Sheep Meadow eating my favourite sandwich. And in a few minutes, I'm going to walk to my Columbus Circle and get on a train and head down to the theatre and do another show. Have you told anyone?" "Nope," I said. "I'm just sitting in the meadow with my dog and I'm having my vegan sandwich and I'm okay." I thanked Michael for the call and hung up. I was alone again. I didn't call my mom. I didn't call my friends. I did nothing. To call them all to tell them about my Tony nomination would have counted me as doing it, gloating, being a pill, embodying the worst of my business. And anyway, I didn't know how to feel. I wanted to hate myself because I didn't feel I deserved it. Truthfully, I have never known how to deal with the fact that I'm a successful person, and yet I hate myself. That breeze called happiness seldom wafted by whatever hammock I was in, and it certainly didn't blow that morning in Central Park. All I'd ever wanted in life was to be on stage in a Foss-inspired show. But then Brantley had attended previews when I still had to sit out parts of the show to save myself for the actual run, and I'd danced the rest on a broken foot. So in being brutally critical, he had made me feel that I just wasn't good enough. Tallulah and I walked to the south part of the park, got on the subway at the 5th 9th Street station and headed down to Broadway. I got ready to do another show. When I arrived, the cast and crew whooped and hollered. I looked at them, all these wonderful people. Let's get ready. Let's do what we have to do. Charity was alone, but she had made it. She was okay. She did it. She danced on one foot and made something out of nothing. So I'm just seeing if it's... what's the next? Oh, that's a long one. I'm just going to start just this chapter 13. There's just this little, there's just like a little part here, so I'm just going to read that bit. Kibitz Kismet. When I was 18, I took a short trip to Amsterdam when I was in the UK for Married with Children. I was absolutely floored by the place and its people. The city was beautiful with its winding canals and cobblestone streets. I wish then, and still wish, that I'd been born Dutch. One of the stereotypes about Dutch people is that they're plain speaking, and because they drink a lot of milk, they are all therefore tall. As a Dutchman once said to me, in the end, not being actually Dutch, I did the next best thing. I married a Dutchman, but it took a long time to come to fruition. Our journey has been long and cosmic and spans a couple of lifetimes. I always refer to it as Kibbutz Kismet. This is why. And we'll save that to the next chapter. So guys, thanks very much. Please like, put the notification on to hear the next chapter. I'm not monetized, so please do like and comment. So, you know, I'm doing this because I enjoy it, and, you know, I want people to know if they want to listen to the book, it's there, it's out and about on Tinternet. So yeah, that's what it's about. I'm a tiny little channel, I'm not monetized. If you like and comment, or just even like, it just pushes it out into the algorithm for other people to see it. It's not for my benefit. I'm not monetized. I'd carry on doing this. You know, I enjoy it. So, but anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope I've got my plea over well enough. Thank you. Bye bye.